Have you ever stopped to wonder why certain genetic traits, like colorblindness, seem to show up so much more often in men? Well, it turns out it's not just random chance. The answer is literally written into our DNA. So today we're going to dive in and decode the fascinating rules of what's called X-linked inheritance to see exactly how this all works.
So here's our game plan for cracking this genetic code. First, we'll get into the basics, the link between your genes and your gender. Then, I'll introduce you to a really cool and surprisingly simple tool called a Punnett square. We'll put that tool to the test with two case studies, one with a carrier mother and another with an affected mother. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with the key takeaways.
All right, let's kick things off. Section 1, Genetics and Gender. To really solve this puzzle of why some traits are more common in men, we've got to start right at the beginning.
This is the big question, right? Why is it so often men? The answer, it turns out, all comes down to the chromosomes that determine our biological sex in the first place.
It really just boils down to this fundamental difference. Females typically have two X chromosomes, XX. Males, on the other hand, have one X and one Y. And here's the kicker. The X chromosome is way bigger and carries a ton more genetic information than the tiny Y chromosome. So if the gene for a certain trait happens to live on that X chromosome, well, the rules of the game change completely.
So how on earth can we predict these patterns? Let's jump into our next section and get to know a classic tool that biologists have been using for ages, the Punnett square. It might sound fancy, but it's actually a super straightforward way to map out genetic possibilities.
So what is a Punnett square? Honestly, just think of it like a simple 4-box grid for figuring out probabilities. It's an awesome little tool that helps us see all the possible genetic combos for a child, just as long as we know the genes of the parents.
Now, for our explainer today, we're focusing specifically on what's called an X-linked trait. And that's just a fancy way of saying the gene we're looking at is located on the X chromosome. And to keep things crystal clear, just like in our source material, we're going to use X star to show an X chromosome that's carrying the gene for this specific trait.
Okay, just 3 quick terms you're going to hear a lot. First up, carrier. This is a female who has one copy of the gene. We'd write that as X star X. But, and this is key, she doesn't actually show the trait herself. Next, affected. This is pretty simple. It's anyone who does show the trait. And last, normal, which is exactly what it sounds like. Someone who doesn't have the gene for the trait at all. Got it? Good.
All right, with those basics covered, let's get our hands dirty and dive into our first case study. This one comes straight from our source material. We're looking at what happens with a carrier mother and a normal father.
Okay, so what you're seeing here is the exact diagram from our source. Let's break it down real quick. Across the top, you've got the mother's two X chromosomes. She's a carrier, remember, so she has one affected X, that's our X star, and one normal X. Then, down the side, you have the father. He's normal, so he's got a standard X and a Y. Now, let's see what happens when we combine them.
Let's actually build this square ourselves so you can see the logic. The mother's potential eggs will carry either her X star or her normal X. The father's potential sperm will carry either his X or his Y. We just fill in the boxes where they meet. So dad's X plus mom's X star, that gives us a carrier daughter, X star X. Dad's X plus mom's normal X, a normal daughter, XX. Now for the sons. Dad's Y with mom's X star gives us an affected son, X star Y. And dad's Y with mom's normal X gives us a normal son, XY. See? 4 clear outcomes. And this is what that looks like as simple probabilities. For any son they have, it's a 50-50 shot, a 50% chance of being affected and a 50% chance of being normal. For any daughter, it's a 50% chance of being a carrier and a 50% chance of being normal. But here's the really important part. Notice how the son can't be a carrier? He either gets the trait or he doesn't. This is where we start to see the answer to our big question taking shape.
Okay, let's take it up a notch with our second case. This time, the mother isn't just a carrier, she is actually affected by the trait. So let's build a new prediction, based on the description right from our source.
So here's the setup, and this is a direct quote. We have a homozygous female, which is just the scientific way of saying both of her X chromosomes carry the gene. So she's X star, X star. She's with a normal male, who is XY. Now the source predicts a pretty stark outcome. All daughters will be carriers, and all sons will be affected. Let's see if the Punnett square backs that up.
Let's map it out. So in this scenario, think about it. The mother can only pass on an X star chromosome. That's the only kind she has to give. The father, again, can pass on his normal X or his Y. So if they have a daughter, she gets an X from dad and has to get an X star from mom. That makes her X star X, every time. If they have a son, he gets the Y from dad and again has to get an X star from mom, making him X star Y. And there it is. The Punnett square confirms the prediction with 100% certainty. Every single possible daughter will be a carrier, and every single possible son will be affected. For this particular genetic pairing, there are literally no other outcomes. It's a sure thing.
Okay, so we've worked through the mechanics of two different scenarios. Now let's zoom out a bit and get to the most important part, the key takeaways. What are the fundamental rules we've just uncovered here?
Let's put this all together. These are the core rules. Rule 1. A father passes his X chromosome to all of his daughters. Rule 2. He can never pass his X chromosome to his sons. They get the Y instead. Rule 3. A mother, on the other hand, passes one of her X chromosomes to all of her children, sons and daughters alike. And all of that leads to the final big takeaway. Because females have two X chromosomes, if one has a faulty gene, the other one can often act as a kind of backup copy, masking the trait. But males, they only have that one X. There is no backup. So any X-linked trait they get from their mother is automatically expressed. And that is the answer to our question. That's why these traits are so much more common in men.
So, we've decoded the how, but the final, most important question is always, so what? I mean, this isn't just a biology lesson for the fun of it. This kind of predictive knowledge is absolutely critical in fields like genetic counseling, and it's invaluable for any family just trying to understand their own health history. It's really a powerful reminder that our family's past is written in our DNA, and it continues to shape our future in ways we are only now beginning to fully understand.